Hi, my question has to do with a bit of biblical history. In the Bible study group I'm in, we're in the latter part of Genesis, a story of Joseph in Egypt. But in chapter 38, it breaks away from Joseph's story and
the story of Judah.
About...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about Judah getting a wife and having kids, right?
Yeah, and all of their misadventures.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that story covers a lot longer time than just the time between where Joseph's story breaks off in 37 and the time it picks up again in 39. So I'm kind of trying to figure out how the timeline of Judah's story lines up with the timeline of Joseph's story. Can you enlighten me on that?
I hope so. Genesis 37 ends, the last verse has Joseph sold into slavery by merchants who take him to Egypt and sell him to be a slave in the house of Potiphar. Then there's chapter 8, and then in chapter 9, verse 1, Joseph arrives in Egypt, and he's sold to Potiphar. In other words, obviously, chapter 39, verse 1 resumes where chapter 37 left off, meaning that chapter 38 seems to be parenthetical. Certainly all the things in chapter 38 didn't happen during the brief journey from the pit where Joseph was sold by his brothers till the time he got into Egypt. That would have been probably only a few days. So, and there's years recorded in 38. So I think we have to understand chapter 38 as a parenthesis. Exactly where it fits in is not 100% certain, but it does say that at the beginning that Judah separated himself from his other brothers. There's a possibility that he did this because he was disgusted with them selling Joseph. We know that Judah and Reuben were two of the brothers who had somewhat more sympathy for Joseph when the other brothers wanted to kill him or sell him. And Reuben in particular seemed to be on Joseph's side. And Judah begins to shine a little bit later on in the story as the one who kind of is the spiritual leader of the brothers. And it may be that Judah just kind of in his heart didn't want to be around those kind of guys anymore. And it says he went off to another place and he got a wife and had 3 sons and so forth. And so it's possible that the story actually does occur after Joseph is sold in chapter 37. But of course it'd be happening alongside Joseph's stay in Egypt, which is begins to be recorded in chapter 39. So it's kind of a parenthetical thing. Now, the time in Egypt that Joseph was there was 15 years before he saw his brothers again. It's hard to know that all those things in chapter 38 happened in that time, unless, of course, Joseph's sons were getting married at 12 years old or something like that, and that's not an impossibility. We don't know how much time it took because the number of years transpiring there doesn't know. But it's possible that it all happened during Joseph's imprisonment in Egypt. It's also possible that the story began earlier, before Joseph was sold. So I'm not really sure. No one really knows for sure, but those are some suggestions. All right, you're listening to The Narrow Path. We have to take a break here, and we will be back in about 30 seconds, so don't go away. We are listener-supported. Our website is thenarrowpath.com.